For our United Way segment, we have Helen Mabberly from the Kingston Community Health Centres. This is not the same as a health unit.
No.
Okay, so tell me about the Kingston Community Health Centre.
Sure. Kingston Community Health Centre started in 1988. We're located on Weller Avenue, and we're similar to a doctor's office. We serve folks who are at greater risk of poor health outcomes because of either socioeconomic, cultural barriers, language barriers, those kinds of things. And so we have your typical doctor's office, but we also have allied health and community programs as well at the health centre.
Well, people keep talking about they can't find a family doctor. So does this take the place of someone having a family doctor?
No, we don't take the place of a family doctor for sure. People that do come to see us would have rostered clients, but we also do some community programs that can certainly help with some of those things. Many times we think of our health being connected to our family doctor, but actually recent studies have shown that close to 80% of our healthcare is actually impacted by the environment, by our housing conditions, by healthy eating, all of those kinds of things. Loneliness is another big one that we saw, of course, during the pandemic. So a lot of the programs that we offer are around those types of things that aren't necessarily visiting with your family doctor.
Okay, so we're talking, but not everybody's got much money, what do you do when you know you should be living better, you should be living in a better place and eating better, but money's just the way it is. So how do you address that?
For sure. Well, there's different ways. I mean, we offer several food security programs, one of which United Way funds, which we have 2 food box programs that United Way supports us with. So during the pandemic, we knew that seniors in particular were asked to isolate, and also were really struggling to get out to grocery shop. So we developed a seniors food box that has fresh produce. It also has some dry staple goods that go out to over 400 seniors in our community, and we deliver it door to door. It started through the pandemic, but there was a need for it to continue because we had a lot of folks who, were living modestly and needed to continue to have that financial support partially, but also needed the support from health and mobility issues. Many of the folks that we deliver to, answer the door with walkers or what have you, and there's mobility issues and it's difficult to get out. And we also support families with food boxes as well, thanks to the support of United Way. As well, we actually support some students at St. Lawrence and Queens as well with some food boxes that are in need. And it's so important to get that fresh produce. So our perspective on it from a health center is that the fresh produce and good food and quality food makes a big difference on your health outcomes. We know that folks who live in poverty, for example, have a minimum 10-year less life expectancy.
Really?
So those kinds of things make a real difference if you're able to put some of those supports in. So that's one way we do it. There's lots of different ways of looking at food security, but from our perspective, that's certainly one that we're supported through the efforts of United Way.
One thing I've always thought that when you see someone who is quite overweight, you say, well, no food insecurity there, but there is.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, we know that the less expensive, higher carbs and those kinds of things are what can create a lot of issues with obesity. And it's in fact the opposite in many cases because of the nutrients that you're taking in.
So they're actually they could be more malnourished than someone who's very slender.
Yes, sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's too much white bread, pasta, those kinds of things
for sure.
in too much quantity.
Yep.
Yeah. And so it has fresh vegetables and some dry goods and so on.
Yeah, that's right. Dry goods. We also have tuna, some other things like that. But the dry staple goods that you would need, peanut butter, some cereals, things like that. Dry goods that we can deliver without having to have the refrigeration, right?
Now, where's this food come from?
So we're really lucky. We have 2 great supporters in this community. Diodato Foods has been a supporter of our food box programs for close to 30 years at KCHC. So we're able to buy wholesale, and we're very lucky because we get exceptional deals because of that, and actually the more we're able to purchase, the better deals we get. And we also work very closely with No Frills out on Division. They supply our dry goods for us and have been wonderful to deal with and very great community partners in terms of helping us stretch our dollar. So those boxes, the ones with the produce and staple goods, would retail for about $35, but with discounts and supports, we're able to get them out for around $20 to $25 depending on the month, which is a huge savings.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a week's groceries. So how often do they get delivered?
So those ones are done on a monthly basis. So the seniors get them on a monthly basis, and the families also get them on a monthly basis. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not going to take care of all their food security needs, but it certainly is something to support them.
Absolutely, yeah. So food is one. What are some of the other initiatives you have that keep people healthy?
Sure. There's lots of different ones. I mean, we also have our early years program. So when we talk about healthiness, we're also wanting to talk about more than just physical health, right? Our early years program offers moms and dads an opportunity to come and have play environments with their young children. And excuse me, that's very important for the stimulation and healthy development of children. So those programs are there. But sometimes it's hard for a lot of families to get there and or cover a healthy snack. So again, with support of United Way, when the folks come for our early years programming at the center, they're able to have a healthy snack and get help with transportation if that's an issue to get out. And as we know, if anyone's had a young child and staying at home, and especially in the winter months, you're glad to get out and to come to a playroom and have some fun with your children and learn about healthy development at the same time.
And meet other adults where you can carry on
Absolutely, and have a cup of coffee. Exactly.
An adult conversation.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned loneliness being something that you address. How do you go about doing that?
Well, again, a lot of it's the social pieces, right? So, I mean, loneliness is addressed when moms come together at the Early On program for sure. I mean, at the center, we also have some social programs for seniors, you know, coffee time, they come together and do some different, you know, bringing guest speakers and things. And it's an opportunity for people to get together and not be as isolated. You know, we have craft groups at the center, different things. So when you think about health, you don't think about that with your doctor's office, but those are some of the services that we have available that actually helps to help with that.
Because I've heard that loneliness can be the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
That's
I've
correct.
heard that recently.
That's the latest studies out. And I think we've really learned about how important not being isolated is because of the pandemic. We all know what it was like when we were isolated and not able to leave our homes and see our families and our loved ones. And you know, with many seniors in particular in our community, you know, families aren't necessarily close by. They could be in another town. So seniors can get very isolated very quickly. So, but as can anyone. But I mean, that's why it's really important to have those connections.
So what is the connection? I've never been really clear on this. I hear that it's as dangerous as smoking a pack. But what is just being on your own, being alone, and spending your days by yourself? Why is that a health issue? That I've never quite connected the dots on that.
Sure. So, I mean, some of it is cognitive decline, and not the opportunity to, you know, use your faculties at their full activity, but in terms of being connected with other people. That's one thing. There's a number of different things. Happiness, just you know, if you're happy, your blood pressure is down. Those kinds of things. So they're all very important things that lead to that. And if you're feeling isolated, lonely, depressed in your home, those things, you know, add to all those health outcomes.
And maybe it's just too much trouble to make a nice meal for yourself.
Absolutely, there's always that, yes.
Yeah, so you're not eating well, and
you're not eating well. Yeah,
you could be drinking a little too much, maybe smoking a little too much.
Lots of different things.
Because there's nobody really kind of watching what you're up to.
For sure.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that when you think of how many of us live alone, and then there's a housing crisis on top of it. Sometimes I think, what are we missing here? You know, it's one of the few nations here, United States, there's a few others, but in some countries, families live together. You don't have retirement homes and people living by themselves. It's just not heard of. And sometimes I think, what are we missing here? It just doesn't add up when you think about it.
Very good point. Yeah, for sure. There are some unique studies out there where they've paired seniors with university students and that, and the how that helps each other, right? So the university student helps the senior, and they have a place to reside, and there's lots of good programs out there and studies around that as well.
Yeah, I could see just that youthful enthusiasm that would
support. Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
On both sides.
And decent conversation and just a little more interest in what's going on out there. Absolutely.
Yes. Keeps us all stimulated.
Wow, this is interesting. A lot of things I hadn't really thought about, and I'm glad you guys are there to offer it, and the United Way plays a part.
Plays a huge part, and plays a huge part in those food box programs. They provide the funding for them. They provide the funding for that transportation that I mentioned. They also support, in our early years programming, we have a lot of newcomers and we need some translation support we have to have certified translators. You mentioned smoking cessation, so we do some smoking cessation programs with newcomers that may have language barriers, and so we can use certified interpretation to ensure that we're able to make that work. And again, United Way supports that as well. They support a lot of initiatives at KCHC, including our Pathways to Education program, which is a program that helps youth stay in high school and graduate.
Oh, we've talked.
They do lots of support with them as well.
They're at such a terrific program.
Yes,
We've had them in here.
So they're all connected with the health center, and United Way supports all of those.
Good to know. Well, thank you so much for telling me about it.
You're so welcome.